Hello, thank you all for joining us for this episode of Ascend the Matrix podcast. I'm your host, Chris King. I'm a shamanic healer, spiritual business developer, and coach. I also host retreats, am a microdosing expert, an ascended astrologer, all the things, light worker, starseed, etc. Brittany, why don't you introduce yourself?
I love that. We're always like, all the things. Just what are we today?
I'm like, how many on this list are we going to go down, you know?
No, these are the checks today. I'm Brittany Renée. I am the co-host today. I'm so excited to have you guys here. I am an embodiment expert, a business coach, a spiritual mentor, again, all the things, and super excited to be with you today. And very excited about our topic today because this is very near and dear to both of us. And I'm gonna let you start because this between us and our relationship, you were the first one to bring this up, and I love this.
Yeah, so I I was thinking, we have so many things we want to talk about on this podcast. And as I was getting up this morning, I was hearing Prince in my head, and I was playing Prince while I was in the shower earlier. And I got a bunch of messages on Instagram from people, and none of them had to have anything to do with my business or my work. They were all just videos of Prince. Thinking of you, sending me videos of, Prince performing in 1993, Prince performing on the Super Bowl, Prince doing an interview and being sassy. And I was like, okay, I hear you. And then as soon as I was coming down to my office here, uh, I heard grab the crystal. This is the crystal that Esteban gave me, and I'm going to go into that I take to all the sacred sites. And so this is very connected to Prince for a specific reason. And so I was like, okay, are we going to talk about Prince today? And yes, we are. We are going to talk about Prince. And many of you are thinking, why are they talking about Prince? I thought this was Ascend the Matrix. I'm a light worker. I'm a star seed. I'm an Arcturian princess. And I don't want to talk about Prince. I want to talk about, how we're going to ascend the Matrix and dissolve the illusion and move into 5D altogether. Well, Prince has a lot to do with that, actually. And if you look in the spiritual world right now, there's actually hundreds of people that are channeling him, and if not more, and receiving download and guidance from him. And yes, he is my main spiritual guide besides my higher self. When people ask me, who are your guides? Jesus or Yeshua pops in sometimes, Kuan Yin, uh, Mary, Magdalene. There are, these race of big, tall, white beings with big eyes. There are energies that come in for me, sure. But beside my higher self, this is the energy that I work with mostly in spirit, in ceremony, and within the grid work that I do. So Prince really holds a special place in both of our hearts. And I know that when we met, it was kind of like, you weren't the only one. Many people that I've met are like, I have this very intense connection with Prince. And I'm like, he is bringing us together. I was even on a plane from Sacramento to Atlanta back in October, I believe it was. And I sat down next to these two people, and one of them had a baby, and we got to talking. She's a manifester. I'm a manifester in human design. She's really into astrology. And I was like, of course, I sit down to the only person on the plane who's into astrology. And then I just decided to ask her, do you have a connection to the singer Prince? And she goes, I can't believe you just said that. We call my mom, her nickname was Dove, because of Prince. And I was like, of course, I'm pretty sure that he brought this moment together as he has orchestrated many moments with clients and friends and soulmates for me. And then she said something to me. We talked the entire flight. I'm sure everyone hated us. And she said to me, my uncle was really, really into Prince. He was almost obsessive about Prince. And he abused me. And she said, I believe and have always believed and have said this for years that the only reason that dark energies didn't take over my body when he was doing that was because Prince's music was playing. And it just clicked right there. It was like beyond all the other experiences that I've had with this Prince entity, this is the reason, this is the code. The music that he left behind contains healing frequencies. He was very spiritual being, but he also was very psychic and was channeling most of this music. And so while it may appear to be a rock, R&B, funk, pop song, there are codes in it through his voice, through his instruments, but also through the words. There's all of these ascension codes and healing frequencies. So I can go all the way back to childhood, but I know that, our moment together was very special and how it relates to your mom. So tell me more about that
Yeah, I
for you.
love this. I know we could talk for hours on this, I'm sure. Interesting. Yeah, Prince really has been like in my memory system in this human experience from the get-go. So, I remember now looking back, the first memories for me were coming home, getting off the bus and trotting down my long driveway, and I could hear before I even reached the front door because the door was open, so it was just like the glass door, I could hear Prince. And my mom was always either blasting it and cooking or she was cleaning, and it was just like full blast, which as a mother, I now understand. I'm like, this is what I do when my kids aren't home, right? I'm like blasting my music and doing my thing. But I have heard his music for as long as I can remember. And I, just kind of always associated it with like, this is just my mom's thing, like whatever. But then coming into around college, I remember it was 1999, just became the big like hangout party song, right? And it was funny because I knew it and we were sitting at a party one night and my girlfriend was like, "How do you know like this song? Like I know this song, but like you know this song." I'm like, "I've been listening to Prince. It's been ingrained. It's almost like just in all of my memory systems." And so I started kind of leaning into like, what of Prince do I like, right? My mom has her flavor that she really loves, and
Because he
so
has tons of flavors. He has
oh yeah.
like
So I
20
started
different
kind of
genres in his discography.
exactly. And I love that about him. And I think that's why with so many different people he can resonate. And so I found, my flavor that I kind of liked when I was in college and doing my thing traveling. But when I started awakening, I remember that purple. So my birthstone is amethyst. And I remember purple was just everywhere. And for the longest time, for some reason, I just did not like that color. I was like, I don't want anything to do with it. And maybe it was because it was pushed in my face through my mom for so long that I was like, whatever.
You wouldn't
Um,
happen to have Aquarius in you, would you?
maybe a little bit. But I started coming into like really loving amethyst. And so interesting was like amethyst then started reminding me, I'm like, when I see purple, I think of Prince. And I'm like, this is just this close connection. And again, his music for me came through as the connector before his energy came through for me. And it wasn't until I started getting into, doing energy work within people's fields that he started kind of like coming along and popping in. And at first I was like, what are you doing here? Like, I don't understand. I don't know why you're here, but like, okay, like it's fine. And it was really, I think, like 3 months or so before you and I started working together that he started coming in really partnered with Yeshua. And I'm like, oh, this is like we're like yin and yanging here with energy. And after you and I started working together, it was just like your energy then with his came in and it was like double time. And now he's with me often. And, his songs, um, before he came in for me as a guide, he really was like he would just kind of pop into my field when I'd be in the middle of most of the time like a breakdown or what we call breakthroughs now. And he'd whisper in my ear like, listen to this, like this is what you need. And it was almost like guiding me to music to listen to. So when you were telling me, when we were texting about the plane situation, I was like, this makes so much sense because his music is so healing and it's so activating too. It's again like pick a song, right? And it's so many different codes, so many different activations. But that's kind of my baseline short story of my experience with him. And he's with me often. I love him. When I was just in
Yeah.
Paris, he was heavily with me. And I was like, I love how we're traveling around with this energy constantly. And a lot of people are tuning into it, which I think is amazing.
Well, there's even a lot of people who weren't huge Prince fans. Prince fans are a unique type of person on this planet, okay? And usually he attracts the weirdos and the people who feel like outcasts and the people who are gender queer and queer people and just but he unites so many different types of people, and he was. He had a song called Controversy where he's like, "Am I?" But ooh, I can't sing it. Warner Brothers, uh, Warner. brothers, I don't even want them to hear me saying that, will flag this video if there's anything even remotely copyright infringed. But he has a song where he's like, he says, "Am I black or white? Am I straight or gay? Controversy." And he really embodied that Gemini sun that he has, and I have as well. See, there were many connections leading back. When I was a little kid, I struggled with my gender and sexuality, of course, and we were in Gatlinburg, Tennessee at the Hard Rock Cafe. And I had to use the restroom. It's one of my most vivid childhood memories. I was probably 5 or 6, and we were walking up the steps to go to the bathroom, and there was this huge glass case with a yellow outfit on a mannequin, and the picture next to it was Prince on the VMAs, and his butt cheeks were cut out. Okay, it was like big round openings. When he turned around, his butt was showing. And so it was a very unique outfit and bright yellow. And I remember saying to my mom, because I was so confused, I was like, "What is that?" And she said, "Who is that?" "That is Prince." And that was what really set it into motion for me right there, was where this interest in this man, woman, person who was going to give me lots of permission slips later started to come in. And then when I was a teenager, I started really getting into 80s music and didn't know why. I've always had this intense fascination with the 1970s and 80s, and being a hippie, but also the 80s and the whole 1980s experience. And little did I know that that was actually leading me toward his music, because once I found his music in its entirety, not just some of the songs that I had known growing up, it became like a total activation for me. It made me want to do music. I started making my own music, and I became a heavy Prince fan, especially in high school, is when I really started to become somewhat obsessive with it. I wouldn't say it was unhealthy, but just in love. I remember watching Purple Rain for the first time, like 14 years old, because I wasn't allowed to watch it when I was a kid, and seeing him perform The Beautiful Ones and Darling Nikki in his lace glove. It activated something within me and gave me so much permission to be myself, and that's what he does for his fans. There was something very spiritual about him while he was here. We called him the Purple Yoda for a reason. He was a guru, if you will, and many fans worship him. And that actually leads me to the relationship that I was in when I was 20 years old. I found myself in a karmic relationship, twin flame type of situation, with someone who is a Satanist, and who told me he sold his soul to the devil and all of these things, very Scorpio. And he actually messaged me on Plenty of Fish. This is how long ago this was, okay? This was before it was POF, and he messaged me and said, "I see that you like Prince in your profile, and if I had not put that symbol with, a zero and we can make that symbol, this symbol right here that I'm pointing at, using letters on the keyboard. If I had not put that symbol, he probably wouldn't have reached out to me. That was the whole reason." And he was so obsessed. He had boxes full of Prince stuff. He was sort of stalkerish. He would get on chat rooms. There was Scorpio level obsessed with Prince that he embodied, and then there was me. And so there was this connection that was constantly bringing me together with people, even dark forces like that, that really initiated me into higher timelines and into my purpose. That relationship did. And he also just kept showing up in different ways with people. And I I went vegan in 2014 and had no idea that he was vegetarian and vegan. I had no idea that his sun sign was Gemini like mine. So there were many things that just kept signaling to me like, wow, this is your person. This is someone that you can say you really look up to. When I auditioned for college, Carnegie Mellon University, which they only accept 4 people in their directing program, right? So I better get these answers right, because I made it all the way to the interviews, and I got in, but couldn't afford it. It was 52,000 a year back then. Now it's 75 per year. Yeah. So he asked me, he goes, "Who's your greatest artistic inspiration or whatever he said. And I said Prince, and he found that to be really cool, actually. That may have been what got me through the door. But then he passed away. Okay, in 2016, I mean, I was thinking about it this morning. I was actually almost crying in the shower, reliving the moment of someone coming up and saying, "Did you see that there was a fatality at Paisley Park? And it's happening right now, and I'm going to let that pass." Because it was a really big moment for me. And it was the beginning of something so beautiful in the collective and for me as a spiritual person. But in that moment, it was so dark, it was so heavy, and I was like, I don't even know him, but I do. It felt spiritual. My relationship with him felt spiritual even back then. And then and then in 2018, I went through a Kundalini awakening, but just a few months before that Kundalini awakening, about 3 months before, I had a very vivid dream about Prince, and he came to me. And long story short, it was a whole exchange where we were connecting with each other in a way I had never felt. I was making an album at the time and planning to move to Atlanta to really take this album to the next level. And he was telling the other people in this space, these other musicians that were passed away, is kind of the way it felt. I couldn't see them like I could see him. They were all just figures. And he was like, he makes music. You got to check out his music. It felt really warm. It felt really like something was being initiated there. And I remember saying to him, "Thank you. I've got to go now. I don't believe I belong here. And I just want to thank you. You have changed my life, and being your fan has been one of the best experiences of my life." And he goes, "You've enjoyed that immensely, haven't you?" And I was like, "Yes." And he basically told me in that moment, like, don't put me on a pedestal. You're the reason that the music was created. You're the reason the music hits you the way it does is because you're tuned to it, not because it's tuning you. Okay, he was very clear in that one moment, and then I woke up. And it was so real. I even called my dad on the phone crying. Prince came to me in a dream, and I posted about it on Facebook because it was so real. And I knew that he came to me, and that was a real moment, having no idea what was going to happen. Now, in my process, I became after Kundalini awakening, I moved to Atlanta, went through a few more awakenings, started my business, started doing readings for people, became the astro medium and doing astrology and mediumship and ascension coaching. Um, I always felt Prince's energy, but it didn't really drop in fully until I started devoting myself to medicine work, which I was doing the whole time. But about a year after I started my business and became a medium, uh, full time and to the world, kind of came out of the witch closet, I started really devoting myself to medicine work, and that's when his frequency really started to drop in. And I'm skipping a whole part here, Brittany, that I just need everyone to realize. But after I moved to Atlanta, so about 5 months after he came to me in that dream, I've had my Kundalini awakening. I didn't kill myself like I thought I was going to. It was so horrendous. And I moved to Atlanta. And while I'm interviewing there for this position, this corporate position, because I was in my U-Haul truck driving to Atlanta, not having a job, not having anywhere to live. So I was all trust and faith, and I was interviewing, and they said, "You look like that guy from Dancing with the Stars," the regional managers. And I was like, "Oh, I get that all the time." And they said, "We have someone who works here in this store, who works for Dior, who looks like Prince." Well, immediately when they said that, I was like, I got this job. I got it in the bag. That was Prince letting me know that I got it in the bag. And sure enough, when I went back to get my stuff, they called and I got it. So I came back, had a place to live, started my job 5 days later. Okay. And I was a manager. So I'm in my office putting up pictures, putting up, that candle was even in that office right there with his face on it. And the guy's name, I've already said his name, but I don't want to put him on Front Street, okay, so much. But someone who I'm close to and who became a dear friend came into the office to introduce himself to me, and he had a big curly wig on. He's a fabulous man, okay? Um, a few years older than me, but he had this curly wig, and I'm like, he's trying to look like Prince, okay? And he had a mark on his face, which I thought was makeup, and he told me it wasn't, and I was like, that's weird. And he said, I see you're putting up a bunch of Prince stuff in your office. And I said, yes. And he said, there's something I want to tell you. And he shut the door and he said, I can bring in documents if you need me to, but I feel like it's important for you to know this. And I feel really called. He said, I know this might sound weird, but I'm psychic. And I said, honey, I don't think you understand. Like,
Welcome
this
to
is
the
what I
club.
do, and I think that's my purpose. I was making an album, but I actually think spirituality and spiritual work is my purpose. And he was like, well, then maybe this won't sound so weird. But Prince is my illegitimate biological father. And he showed me proof and he gave me some receipts. And first of all, the way he looks and sounds and the way he smiled, I mean, you couldn't mistake it. And the mark on his face was real. And he told me that he was born on June 7th, 1985, and Prince's birthday is June 7th, 1958. So something was very synchronistic about that. So it all lined up. He never knew his father. His mother partied with Prince 9 months before he was born when he was in Madison Square Gardens for the Purple Rain tour in 1984. And she was a sex worker at the time, okay? He didn't really have a relationship with his mom until he was in his teens, and it was his 18th birthday because he has a twin brother, Brittany.
Oh, I
Yes,
didn't
he
this
has a
far.
twin brother. They're the Gemini twins, okay?
Lord.
And his aunt is the one who told them. And so this whole experience of like, wow, Prince is bringing me to certain, of all the places I could have gone in the whole world, Prince's son, he may have many, okay? But Prince's son, who even tried to get to Prince back in 2014 and 2015 and was filed a lawsuit against by Warner Brothers. I mean, it was really bad. Esteban, oof. I'm trying not to, maybe we can cut his name out because I don't want to again put him on Front Street and make it hard for him because he went through a lot of fans threatening to kill him and that sort of thing. But I know he's protected. He even came up to me one time and told me that a woman came up to him suddenly while he was working and said that he contains the code Tesla 369. So, which is now a huge thing for me. And he gave me this crystal on my birthday about 4 years ago. And he's the one that's in my Libra video. So, this crystal I've been taking to all of this Sedona, Shasta, Hawaii, and I always put it somewhere in the grid and encode it. And this is my Prince Esteban, I keep saying his name, crystal. I'm not saying his last name though. Uh, and so that was cool, but it wasn't until I had several clients who came to retreats who were Prince fans who felt like Prince sent them to me. One of them even saying um, she was at a private retreat with me and I started singing. I heard Sing 1999. So I started singing I Was Dreaming When I Wrote This. And she goes, oh my gosh, that's so funny that you're singing that. She was journeying. She was out by the fire. It was almost the end of the night. She goes, I can't believe you're singing that. Prince hangs out in my house. I have a psychic friend, and she tells me that the singer Prince hangs out with me in my house. And I'm not even a huge fan of his. I don't understand. And I said, well, I am. And it's very possible that he sent you to me. And then her shirt said established 1999,
Of course.
EST 1999, almost like an Abercrombie kind of
Yeah.
sweatshirt. And so right then and there, I knew he is sending me people because it wasn't the first time, but it was the first time it was someone who wasn't really a fan of his music here, but was super connected to him in spirit. And then he started to come to me more and started to give me downloads. And he always came with Yeshua. Yeshua's energy was always there. And they often worked together. And it started to make me think of, well, what about this violet flame that everyone talks about? This 7D and this violet flame in Saint Germain, you
Mhm.
know, and it really landed. And what he told me was that purple rain is the violet flame and that you can look at them as two ends of the same spectrum or sort of the same energy in two different forms, and that there's this fire that comes from the violet energy, but then there's this rain, this water. And he said you can actually use them both in your healing practice. You can call in the violet flame to purify, and then the rain will wash it away. And that's what he meant by, I only want to see you bathing in the purple rain. I want to see you in unconditional love. I want to see you in pure happiness and joy. I want to see you healing. I want the best for you. And so it really landed for me that something big is happening here. You know, gold is a huge thing for me. My middle name and my first name mean golden one and gold. And he had a whole album called The Gold Experience and all of these gold codes. Um, so many things about his music, even the number seven, his song Seven. Seven is my favorite number along with 13. Those have been my two favorite numbers since I was a little kid, especially seven. It became
Mhm.
13 when I was a teenager. So just all of these different codes. I work with Blue Lotus. He has an album called Lotus Flower. I work with Cacao. He has an album called The Chocolate Invasion, which is not about cacao. Um, but there's just so many different Easter eggs and synchronicities involved with him. And I think it's because he was channeling and bringing something in through from the Christ consciousness, but also from the violet ray. And people ask me, what's your starseed lineage? Could you hear that ding? Did you hear
Mhm.
that?
I did. Hello.
It says, you have a podcast right now.
Oh.
And I'm like, thank you. I know. Um, so there's many different codes around this violet flame and purple rain. And I was like, we have to use this in our healing work. We have to make this uh, a part of what we're doing here. And so, like when I do Reiki symbols, of course, I've done the traditional Reiki symbols and I use them at times, but I haven't always felt them or felt Reiki in that way. But I will use that symbol in my healing work and to encode things and to bless medicine. And I will play Purple Rain and I will definitely play his song Seven because that it clears energy for me. It's like a selenite wand or a sage stick for me. And excuse me, he really comes through with so much love and he's so playful. The
Yeah.
energy is very much like the energy of sassafras. You know, when I did my sassafras activation on YouTube, I encoded it with Prince frequencies because he kept coming through because sassafras is a two spirit. And Prince really embodies that gender neutral, like non binary being, that safe masculine, but who is also a powerful feminine force, and he's very sassy, and he comes through like that. There are many times where he'll go through and he'll look at through my books and he'll go, "I don't see any of mine here." And I was like, "Oh, you are cute." And I'm like, he wants me to keep books about him with all of like the esoteric knowledge and everything. And he's being playful. He's being funny. He doesn't actually care. So just like Yeshua, there's this big brother energy, but he has a totally different frequency than Yeshua, although they work together. I mean, his song "I Would Die for You" was about Jesus, okay, or about Yeshua, but even it was about Jesus who died on a cross. But he was Jehovah's Witness. But I believe that Prince needed that spirituality, and he needed Jehovah's Witness because of the darkness that he experienced in Hollywood and in the entertainment industry, which is why he had his own complex, his own labels, his own everything, because he wanted to be separate from that because of all of the black magic that's going on. And I do know because when Esteban and I were together a few years ago, we were in my house and Prince came through and we were feeling him and we were tuning into him and Esteban was sort of having this moment and he told us that he was done away with. Okay. And before then, I wasn't as into conspiracy theories or the idea that Hollywood has clones and takes celebrities out. You know, they killed Stanley Kubrick for making Eyes Wide Shut. I wasn't into all of that several years ago. It was in the periphery, but it wasn't activated for me. So Prince was taken care of. And it's because he wasn't participating in a lot of the programs that were happening. And also, allegedly, let's just say allegedly, okay? And let's just say that the Bugs Bunny company, the Looney Tunes company,
Mhm.
allegedly needed to off him as well because it was going to create a new multi-billion dollar industry or um, revenue for them. And so his sister was even involved, who has now passed away. Okay. And so it was the most profitable thing to do. And although that's terrible, now we get this ascended master energy because when he comes through, it comes through as an ascended master. Okay. And I'm not really into the ascended masters like that. I think there's a lot of BS going on around these ascended masters, and there's false light energies that happen. And I don't feel them like Saint Germain. I don't ever feel his energy. And that doesn't mean that he's not real and he didn't actually ascend. When I've worked with the violet flame energy, it's been Prince. When I took my whole team to Mount Shasta in October, and I was told, and there are five of us, and I hired Dan, who is a shamanic guide, to do activations for us with us around all the vortex points. He said, "Where are we going to take you?" And I said, "Well, there's something very specific about the number six with us." And he said, "We need to go to the Star of David portal, which is a six-pointed star made out of stones. And it's this huge ceremony space in the middle of the woods." And he said, "We'll do a violet flame activation because that's where the violet flame is most, it's connected to Egypt. And there's a tunnel from here to Egypt or a portal. And the violet flame is really strong here." And immediately I was like, this is going to be about Prince. So we do the activation, and we're bringing up the violet flame, and toward the end of it we're all just sitting in that energy, and Prince is just walking around, and I realized he's the seventh energy. And I was like, "Oh my gosh, I'm getting it now. You're seven. Okay, you're the seventh energy that we needed. We make up the five-pointed star, me and my team. The six of us make up the six-pointed star, and you're adding the seventh. We're ascending this. Don't you see there's an ascension happening?" And he kept striking his guitar. He will do that during healings. He will tell me to put my hands over someone, and he'll play certain notes so that those frequencies tune their vibration. It's really cool how he will mimic his rock star persona as
Mhm.
part of the healing because it's all sound and frequency and vibration. And there's something very starseed about him. It's very possible that he came from the violet ray, which is where I come from. That's when people ask, "What's your starseed lineage?" It's not Arcturian. I come from this big violet ball of light. That's how it's been shown to me. So, and some people say it's the violet ray, and I'm like, well, whatever it was beautiful. Okay, and I don't know about the different names of it. And then he started walking around us, playing the guitar, and kept looking at me like, "Start singing." And I'm like, "I'm not doing that. I'm not doing that right now. We're not going to make this about that." So he kept doing it, and so I just started, "I never meant to cause you any sorrow." And then everybody started to join in with me, even Dan. I mean, he was so into it. "I only want to," all of us with our eyes closed. I kept opening, being like, "Are they on board with this?" And they were so on board. And then it started to rain. It was
Mm.
the most beautiful. We incinerated something, and then this rain started pouring down. And we were just like, wow, you know? And then he had me carve his symbol into the center of that portal. And he said, "Now this symbol, which is a sacred symbol that represents the unifying of masculine and feminine principles, and this symbol means love." And so he had me carve that symbol into the grid, and now it's available for more people. More people who come to Mount Shasta will feel his energy. There were people who were working on the Mount Shasta book with me, where when we launched the book in December, when I brought Prince's that tambourine to the ceremony that we did to launch the book, they were all like, "We keep hearing Prince songs in our head." And I said, "That is not an accident. You
Mhm.
all are, he is coming really strongly into the grid, and there are tons of psychics and channels out there who are channeling him." So that's my story about Prince. And I
What?
know it's a long one, and I left so much out. His music, his persona, his activation wove its way into my experience many times, but after his departure from physical experience, he has taken over the role, and this is probably what he came in to do from the beginning, of sort of an ambassador for the violet ray, an ambassador for Christ consciousness. and unity. And he is very involved in the ascension process, and he cannot just move on into another incarnation. His soul is, because that's all happening at once. It's not linear. But his higher self, for that prince energy that always will be and always is, remains here because of his music, and it tethers him to this experience. And so he left behind the music, which holds codes of ascension in the words, but sometimes just in the vibration of it, just in the purity of it. And also, he's very involved with certain people, and I believe that many of us are attracted to Prince because we're part of the same soul family. So, my goal here in talking about all of this is to spread awareness about this. I mean, yes, I've even had Whitney Houston come into my retreats multiple times. I don't know why. It doesn't feel the same. It almost feels like, hey, y'all are calling in Prince. Why don't you call me in too, Miss Leo, Queen? And I don't, it also may be that a lot of them are hanging out because they were killed. And so they have a vested interest in this whole Hollywood takedown. I'm not sure about that. But with Prince, it feels like he played the role of an artist formerly known as Prince, but he actually signed up to be an ascension guide for us during this time. And I know it was cleverly disguised through music, and there were other celebrities who held that similar code. But not like Prince. It feels intentional, and it feels like he's almost taken an ascended master role. Excuse me. So when he comes in, and I get messages all the time, Prince came to me in a dream. You and Prince were in a dream together. It's really sweet, and it means a lot to me because I believe he contains the codes, many of the codes we need. It's another beautiful guide for people to work with. And, you know, people associate certain ascended masters or gods and goddesses with music and activation. And I'm like, here's someone who can really give that to you in a way that is very unique. And he holds that beautiful gender neutral, non binary code, two spirit code, which is missing in a lot of the ascended master and gods and goddesses binary experience. So it means something to me for people to feel that energy and to know that they're not crazy if he's coming to you in dreams, if he's coming to you in sessions, if people are telling you the singer Prince is around you. I had several people look at me like I had three heads when I brought this tambourine to the ceremony space. They're like, "Where are your sticks and your pine cones and your crystals?" And I was like, "Well, I've got those too, but I've also got this symbol here, which means everything that we're trying to create, which is unity." And also, there are a bunch of songs that go with this symbol that hold that frequency as well. While you're listening to your affirmations and your Hertz frequencies, Prince's music comes in and has the ability, it's so strong that it can keep dark energies from entering a child during their abuse. Those
Mhm.
were, which is one of my missions here, is to clear the energy of the sexual abuse and um, the program that is running for thousands of years, this reptilian program that has been infiltrated into our system and into our DNA even. Music is the language. Music is the code. Music has the power to mind control you, or it has the power to unlock you from the matrix trap. So Prince asks you, do you take the red pill or do you take the blue pill? Or, do you realize that you're in a matrix and help from within? Red pill. Do you stay asleep and wake up tomorrow in your bed and believe whatever you want to believe? Blue pill. Or do you mix them together, harmonize the duality that we have here, create that purple violet energy, and actually ascend out of this altogether? That's where I feel that his code comes in because we have a lot of ascended masters, lots of angels, lots of guides, lots of astrology, lots of spiritual esoteric knowledge that everyone's talking about, Hermeticism, Kabbalah, ancient texts, emerald tablets. What if all of that is still designed to keep you in a matrix, to keep you um, spiritually focused, but constantly reincarnating, even? So you're not ever actually ascending as a soul, you're only growing as a physical being. I've got 1,000 past lives here. When are you just going to be you? Okay.
Mhm.
When are you just going to merge with that soul energy? So I think that's the new code that's coming in.
Mm, so good. I love this. You know, it's I I don't think you've actually told me before, and we've been in healing spaces quite a few times now about him like strumming the guitar when you've been working with him. And it's interesting because one of the things I do love about communicating with other healers is that all of us will feel that energy the same, but the way that sometimes energies will or souls will work with us, masters, whatever we want to call them, is different, right? So when Prince comes through with me when I'm doing work, he is very much, at least lately, been coming into like womb work and very much into that like it's like he will take the root of people and like do this alchemy that is very like almost like neon shiny, right? And it's something that I'd never seen until I started working with him in fields. And it's this wrapping of sorts around just bodies. And it's sometimes music notes, and sometimes it's like symbols, and sometimes it's numbers. And it's like these neon purple little things just floating around people's bodies, and it starts to imprint in them, and it's like activating then their light bodies and their codes. And Yeshua partners with him often and takes kind of like the upper chakras. And so it's very interesting how they play with all of us in these different realms, and I love hearing it. And for me, like Purple Rain was one of the songs, and I think it was because it was my mom's favorite, probably still is my mother's favorite song. I was very much like, I want to hear all the other songs but that. Like I've heard it so many times. And so it would come on for the longest time and I'd be like, skip. Like I didn't want to have anything to do with it. And last year at my retreat for my community, I was still processing through this whole prior relationship BS. And it was finally this moment that I was like, I did medicine with you, and Prince was very like around for that as well. But a month after we did medicine, it was the end of the retreat. I like got in the shower and I was just like, I just need to like rest. I need to relax. And Prince came up to like my ear and was like, you need to listen to Purple Rain. And I just need you to just surrender and just listen. And I'm like, okay. So I get out of the shower, I end up going downstairs and like literally in the middle of the living room just laid down and like just on the floor like blasted Purple Rain, and everybody that was at the retreat was like, "Ooh, like what's happening?" And I was just like, I'm just receiving. You can receive with me if you want to. And it felt like there was, I won't even go into the length of the story, but by the end of the song, it was like we're complete. Like there's just so much that was in my heart space and my womb space that had been shaken up by the medicine and had been released, but it was like these final little tendrils were getting like pulled out. And then this rain was just so soft. It was like just this beautiful moment. And now I love that song and I obviously listen to it often, but I'm guessing some people that are watching this episode are probably like, either I've never heard of this before or like having a bunch of resonance around it. I also am hearing though beings watching this asking like, well, how do I communicate with him? Like, how do I work with him? How do I call him in? And so I know I'll share like the piece I've told my clients, and I want to hear your answer to this too, because I think people are going to want to know like, and it's 444 my time. So here we are.
144 my time. And 144 is the 13th number in the Fibonacci sequence, and 369 and click,
Those
click, 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 click,
lyrics.
click.
Okay. Um, So, I've had people ask because I talk about Prince as well and working with him. And they're like, well, how do I, work with him? And I said, one of the things that I think is really cool because this happens to me and I love it because music, like we said, music is just so coded. I said, put on like Spotify or whatever you play. And I said, put on Prince radio or just like Prince's discography and just let it shuffle. Like, don't pick it, let it shuffle. And I just want you to listen to what comes through. And it's almost like the music will crack you open in a way that will allow this energy in a way that's going to be very unique to you because everyone is going to receive and partner with this energy a little bit differently. And it's been really incredible to like witness other people start to bring this online a little bit and be like, this was so cool. And he came in here. And I'm like, he is, you said, playful. I'm like, I love his energy. It's very playful. And when Yeshua and him are together, it is very like, I at least feel, I'm like, I feel like I'm little sister. And these are like my protected big brothers who are also like, you're the oracle. We're protecting you. You do your work. We got your back. And it's like the most supportive, strong, soft energy. And I'm so grateful to be connected with them. But I'd love to know how you would tell people who want to be more connected with him.
Yeah.
How
Some people watching this may be like, why are they making such a big deal about Prince? Is Michael Jackson an ascended master? You know, aren't they all ascended because they've left their body? I mean, there's going to be several questions that people have, and I understand that. And I can't explain it. I know that my soul mission here has always been to become a New Earth leader, an activator, an ascension guide, a shamanic practitioner. All of that was encoded in me from birth. I was always going to be an embodiment of Chiron uh, energy. So I'm really not surprised that it made its way into this moment and all the different things that led up to this moment, from my ex-boyfriend who was obsessed. I have a tattoo of Prince's symbol on my back that I got when I was 21 while I was with him because he had it on his arm, and had always wanted it anyway, but that was my first tattoo. Those were just, I'm a huge fan and I love this guy. I love his music. It didn't, I didn't understand where it was going. So if you have this connection already, you already have it. Don't question it. Prince often shows up to me and he loves to show off his shoes. And he often has a sucker, like a Tootsie Pop, and he will be, doing this. And he's been telling me for the past several minutes that we make everything really complicated here. Everything is so complicated. He's like, I know you all want me to come through with some grand message, but the grand message is love. That's the
yes.
word that tries to tune you to the frequency, because the frequency that he's trying to bring through is so big that we don't even have a word for it. And so um, all encompassing, it makes up everything. It's the illusion that love isn't real, or that we've got all of these different details down here. It's so fractalized down here, or in the physical reality. And he is very clear that, and he's sort of sassy about it, I don't really have a grand message. It is simply just love. Love is truly what all of this is. Even the music, it's just love, because it's all trying to tune you back into oneness, tune you back into harmony and into unity, which is love. Love is the connecting force in our universe. And so it's very simple for him. So if you're on the path of bringing more love onto the planet, bringing more of Christ consciousness onto the planet, then this being probably already is working with you in a specific way, because Yeshua, Prince, Mary Magdalene, Kuan Yin, they are actually all coming from the same operating system. We all are, but they're very much coming in on the same wavelength. And so we're receiving different avatars or different expressions of that Christ consciousness, okay, and how it can show up. And so Prince, there are, if you're wanting to work with Prince, listen to his music, especially listen to the music that came out after 1990, 1991. This is when things really started to shift for him, where he started to become more spiritual, and a lot of the music in the 70s and 80s that we have from him is very much about shock and surprise, because he knew he had to shock people to get to where he needed to be, with Dirty Mind and Controversy, and then 1999. And of course, Purple Rain. There's a lot of Hollywood in there. He is so encoded in that. But a lot of those songs were chosen specifically to make record labels happy. So there's so much music after the 80s, so much that holds codes in it and frequencies that are purely his. He released it himself, recorded it himself, did everything himself. So there's a purity in that. Connect to that music as well, which is a little bit more obscure and not as many people know about it. And also, uh, sound, anything to do with sound healing, he's very much involved in. And so if you have this desire, start using his symbol in your Reiki practice and your healing practice. Basically, I'm going to turn around so people can see, but basically, I do this. Okay. And I can even, I'm going to draw it on a piece of paper because people can watch this back. And you start using this in your healing work. Sing his songs. There's times where I sing his songs and it gets people to cry just humming them. It's not even about the words. It's about the frequency that's coming through. Do I have a purple pen? Yes, I do. Okay. So I draw a circle. So that's what I do with my finger. Okay. So I make a circle and then I start here at the spiral like a Fibonacci sequence and we spiral out. Then we come here. I make this little kind of C shape and then I come back here and I go straight down and then I cross the T and then I do the V. Okay. And using his music to singing his songs, just calling him in, envisioning him around you. Sometimes I have to tune into the frequency and then I'll see him. I'll see his shoes, I'll see the sucker, and I'm like, okay, he's around. He's here somewhere. He's ready to play. So if you are interested in connecting with him, if it's calling to you, if you already have resonated with this or have felt his energy, then it's already happening. Okay. And that's the beautiful thing about it is that when people hear Purple Rain, they're now, or Kiss, that's my mom's favorite Prince song, Kiss. When they hear these songs, they're actually going to think about Mount Shasta because that code is now in Mount Shasta. And Mount Shasta is the cosmic transducer chakra of the whole planet, the great amplifier. She's amplifying that frequency out into the entire grid. Is Prince here to save the world? No, he's here to continue his mission that he started many, 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 many lifetimes ago on this planet. And the Prince incarnation, as we know it to be, was one of many beautiful incarnations that brought more light and love onto the world. And he made sure he had a song. I'll end it with this. Prince had a song on his album Parade from the movie Under the Cherry Moon, which came out 2 years. It's the album that Kiss is on. And the song is called Sometimes It Snows in April. And it is a really sad song, and I used to listen to it when I was younger to help me cry, to get emotions out. Sometimes it snows in April, and it's about his character in the movie that he plays, named Christopher, dying in the month of April. And then he died in April. So there was some sort of prophecy there, and he knew. And so all of his music is actually a data bank of ascension codes and pure love energy that comes through. And so I just encourage you to listen to his music, and that will do what it needs to do. And just saying, I'd like to connect with the energy of Prince, not the singer, but the energy of the Christ consciousness and the violet flame and the purple rain. You know, when for all of you violet flame activators and you do violet flame meditations, call in the purple rain after to wash away what was incinerated. See all those ashes being washed down into the Gaian grid. The flame incinerates and that smoke goes up to source, but see the rain washing the ashes away, unveiling that phoenix that's living under the surface there. So, Brittany, is there anything else you want to say to Prince or about Prince before we go?
Oh, I love him. No, I think this has been really, really great. And I think this is going to be super eye-opening for a lot of people. And so I'm excited to just see and hear what this episode brings for everybody.
Yes, we would love to hear from you. Put in the comments below or reach out and let us know your experiences with Prince and working with him as a fan or being a fan of his and what that did for you, because there's so much healing in that. But also, if any of you all are working with his frequency or try some of the things that we've suggestions that we've given you and you feel it, let us know. I'd love to hear feedback. It's really important. And I just want to say thank you to everyone. Thank you to Prince for being here. And let's close out the space. So I'm going to take a deep breath in. Thank you to our angels, guides, loved ones, star family, ascended masters, our higher self, source of all that is. Thank you again to the spirit of Prince, the purple Yoda, the great teacher of mine. Thank you to our physical bodies for feeling this resonance. Thank you for the entire we're going to show gratitude and thanks for the music industry and even Hollywood, because that was a portal for light to get in, because darkness always serves the light, and we claim that now. Thank you, Prince, for coming forth, being with us today, and for delivering all of your codes, and for holding that Christ consciousness so beautiful for us to tune to. And so it is. Aho.
Oh.
We'll see you all
Woo!
next time, and thank you all for joining us.